international airlines to stop taking new reservations for all flights arriving in the country until the end of December. This is AP News. Chris Cuomo is off the air for helping his brother in a sexual harassment scandal. CNN Chris Cuomo indefinitely after the release of details about how Cuomo helped his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, as he faced charges of sexual harassment. CNN said documents released Monday by the New York Attorney General indicated Chris Cuomo was more involved in defense than the network previously knew. CNN said Cuomo was suspended indefinitely pending further evaluation. Cuomo primetime the day on CNN, airing weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Mike Rossio. City Council member Andre Dickens won his next mayor, riding a surge of support that powered him past the council's current president, Felicia Moore. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms announced in May she would not seek a second term in Atlanta. I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
Inbound Stevenson traffic is slow now between Cicero and Pulaski. The trip time between the Veterans Memorial Tollway to stop minutes. 20 on Rye gets heavy in the express lanes around Pershing, and then it's heavy from Canal Port to the third circle. It's 13 minutes, 95th to downtown, outbound 11. Other expressways and tollways still look pretty good right now. Some overnight work is wrapping up on the Tri-State in a couple of spots. Chicago's winter overnight parking ban is now in effect on 107 miles of arterial streets. Hours of 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. until April 1st. Last year, more than 200 cars were towed that first day. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte.
This is WCPT 820. Listen in Chicago on 820 AM or stream us live on WCPT820.com, the TuneIn radio app, or tell Alexa or Google to play WCPT.
This is John Daniel, President and Business Manager of the Sheet Metal Workers of Smart Local 265. The principal.
Okay, we got about 1 minute, and Reverend Johnson is on the line.
Okay, bring her up so I can say hey.
Must recognize
Thank you so much. Reverend Johnson?
Points of view is the foundation for success. A culture where labor and
Reverend
management
Johnson?
work together inspires innovation, promotes inclusion, creates a
Pastor Johnson?
business, the workforce.
Can you hear me? Now I can. I couldn't hear you before. How are you?
Developed and improved with the voice of a unionized
Okay,
workforce.
Matt, I need you to bring the radio down and bring Reverend Johnson up so that I can hear her.
Everyone who voted for President Biden.
Reverend Johnson?
He believes in unions.
Yes.
Biden signed the American Rescue Act of 2021.
Can you bring it down just a little more?
It funds improvements.
Okay, very good. Pastor Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I can hear you clearly. How are you?
I am well. How are you, Sandy?
I am doing well. Thank you so much.
You got about 10 seconds.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Have a great show, everybody. God bless us all, and let us bless. All right, everybody.
Amen.
Amen to that. Okay, see us, got my clock up, and so, okay. Hey, everybody. Got a lot to talk about. Got all these trials going on. Jussie Smollett. We're going to have Angela Davis's sister, who is a famed civil rights lawyer, talking with us in the second hour about the Jussie Smollett case. They're very close. I think Dr. Davis might even be Jussie Smollett's godmother. Well, he grew up with her. And so can't wait to talk about that case. There's a lot interesting that's going on. The Dante Wright case, Ahmad Arbory, that is ongoing. Oh, so much to discuss today. All right.
Can you hear me, Miss Jackson?
Not at all. Are we up?
Yep.
Okay, well, bring me up. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. How are you today? It is Tuesday, December 1st, 2021. Can you believe 24 days away from Christmas? Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish brothers and sisters and to our Muslim brothers and sisters who are also in their holy season. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278 WCPT. That is the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. I'm based here in Chicago at WCPT 820 and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to talk to you today about the Dante Wright case, which is now unfolding up in Minneapolis. And then we've got the Ahmad Arbory case. Didn't get a chance to talk about that last week because we had the verdict that came in during the Thanksgiving holiday, but it's ongoing. Now the prosecutor, one of the prosecutors who was defeated largely by the efforts of Ahmad Arbery's family, led by his father. She has been arrested. She was put in jail. She's bailed out because she interfered in the case. Told the McMichaels to go home, wash themselves of the gun residue in the blood, and the whole ecosystem in that town and in that county sought to block the officers from even investigating the scene. It is a mess. And then, of course, the Jussie Smollett case. We've got to dig into that today. And we're going to have a special guest, attorney Fania Davis. Who is she? She is the sister of the iconic Dr. Angela Davis. Indeed, she's from Dr. Angela Davis and attorney Fania Davis are from one of the most accomplished Black families in our nation's history. And so it'll be good to hear from her. She's a noted civil rights lawyer. And I just cannot wait to get her thoughts about this case. And I want to get your thoughts, too, about all of these cases. Hey, Hannah. Hey, Dave. Hey, Renee. Hey, Barbara Bacon. Hey, Michael Ann. Hey, Andre. Dave Dowling and Daryl and everybody. And Linear Bob from Silicon. And Carol, hope you had a wonderful, wonderful birthday. Hope you had a wonderful birthday and happy Hanukkah to you, my dear sister. Sending everybody much love today. So let's get to some of these headlines. So that we can get to the rest of the show. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 49 degrees. It will be cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 52 degrees. It will be cloudy there as well. The Dow closed down 652 points yesterday. Ooh. The NASDAQ closed down 245 points, and the S&P 500 closed down 88 points. In the NBA, the Timberwolves will be meeting the Washington Wizards tonight. Ought to be a great game. And the Wild were triumphant over the Coyotes 5-2. 7 things that you need to know today. There was a deadly shooting. Going to mention that today, too. In Michigan, just outside of Detroit, 3 students, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 17-year-old were killed. 8 others were injured, some in critical condition, including a teacher. A 15-year-old sophomore who has been arrested was the shooter, according to police. A motive is still unknown. The gun, a 9mm pistol, was purchased by the suspect's father last week, 4 days before the shooting. It's a big day for abortion at the Supreme Court, everybody. Justices will hear arguments about whether a 15-week ban in Mississippi, which has been on hold since 2018, is constitutional. What's at stake? Well, Roe v. Wade, everybody. The court could decide to overturn Roe v. Wade, the 1973 ruling that legalized abortion nationwide. What will happen? We don't know. We'll be looking out on the Santita Jackson Show. FDA advisors recommended the first pill to treat COVID-19 in the United States. Molnupiravir, taken for 5 days, cut the risk of hospitalization and death by 30% for people at high risk for severe illness. FDA officials have to decide whether to authorize it, but they usually follow the expert's recommendation. We will see. Another judge blocked the vaccine mandate for workers. What does this mean? A key part of President Biden's vaccine rules will now be on hold across the country after this ruling on Monday, after it was first blocked in 10 states. What's the mandate? It applied to about 1.7 million people who work at facilities that get Medicare and Medicaid funding, including hospitals and nursing homes. Chris Cuomo, the highest rated personality at CNN, has been suspended indefinitely. He was much more involved. It has been found in defending his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, from sexual harassment allegations and previously known. And so we will see how that all plays out. And it turns out parts of the Arctic, get this everybody, could get more rain than snow by 2060. Well, Ilhan Omar keeps on pushing. And guess what? She played a very disturbing tape in a press conference in which she had been called the N-word. That's right. She's been getting disturbing, unsettling voicemails from people who say that one man said, "You will not live much longer. We see you, Muslim, and that's right, the N-word, bitch. We know what you're up to. You're all about taking over our country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." This ugly language, this is what happens. And she is, of course, serving Minneapolis in Washington, D.C. So we're going to continue to keep her in our prayers and continue to look out for what's happening to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. All right, Pastor Vicki Johnson. Gotta have some good news today. It's just, can you believe this one? She played the voicemail at the press conference yesterday, and I'm glad that she did. Because people need to know what kind of this hate speech produces. While some of the GOP, one of the GOP members said, you all are out of bounds on this, and then a couple of others defended this ugly hate speech. And guess what? The congresswoman who said, this hate speech is wrong, she's under fire. This is just absolutely insane. And it's so hateful. It's so hateful. Pastor Vicki Johnson, St. Thomas Lutheran Church, everybody, it's at 80th and Jeffrey. 80th and Jeffrey. 11:45 to 12:15 on Sundays, half hour of power. You don't want to miss it. 80th and Jeffrey. It's right on the corner, right here on the south side of Chicago. Pastor Johnson, how are you?
I am well. Good morning, Santita, and good morning to your morning stars and friends. There is good news. Sunday kicked off Advent, the season in the Christian church of waiting for the coming Messiah. There are 4 weeks of Advent that commences with a focus on hope. It is hard to wait for anything if you don't have hope. I believe that was the motive behind your father, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, concluding his famous "I am somebody" chant with "Keep hope alive." Keep hope alive. Waiting is not always the easiest thing to do, but to be asked to wait when you don't believe that which you are waiting for will ever come to pass is next to impossible. This time last year, we had to keep hope alive that the scientists would be able to formulate a vaccine that would protect us against COVID-19. If we did not keep hope alive, we would not be enjoying new but restricted freedoms that were only a wish or a regret last year. Keeping hope alive eventually resulted in the vaccine and resulted in the coming of the newborn king. You may be a little apprehensive right now about things that are to come in your life. As we trod further into the unknown, I want to encourage you during this first week of Advent to keep hope alive. Keep hope alive for yourself and for someone else. If you can do this, and I'm sure you can, then to me, that's good news.
Amen. Keeping hope alive. I will say this as you go, Pastor. That's something during the 87, 88 campaign, because you know how Reverend is. He gets hit with these bolts of inspiration, and boom, and it hit. Just landed with the crowd that day. And it was something that we would kind of laugh about because, you go from place to place, you hear almost the same speech, but he changes it because that's part of his genius. But that stayed with us, just, and then toward the end of the campaign or in the thick of it, you said, wow, we are working to keep hope alive for so many people. And that's why I have you here, because it really is about keeping hope alive. If you can just keep on hoping, hoping, you can make it. You can make it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Despite all of the hate and hateful rhetoric that is going on in Congress and everywhere else, we still got to keep hope alive.
Because it is, because it's not new. It's not new. Oh, no, we've been doing this a long time. Lynching was an after-church activity, everybody. So let's just stop.
Yes.
This is part of...
With lunch.
With lunch, with your children on your shoulders. Okay, so they could get a better view than you. So we have to stop. You put smallpox in blankets and gave them to indigenous people. What? Killed their buffalo so they couldn't eat. Come on.
Yes.
This is what we do, but this is not what we need to continue to do. And no one should ever feel comfortable slandering any human being. Ilhan Omar has as much of a right to be in this country as anybody. We are all immigrants here, or something like that, or my people were dragged here. And to have her called an N-word, bitch. I'm glad she played the tape. People need to know what she's experiencing and what other people, because I used to get those kind of messages at my parents' house. I get it. But nobody should have to live with that. And you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. How dare you do that? How dare you? Oh, Pastor Vicki Johnson, everybody, in Advent, go to the St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th and Jeffrey here in Chicago. You don't want to miss it. Half hour of power, 11:45 to 12:15, and it's safe. And it's going to be a very, very powerful message. Very powerful message. Love you, Pastor Johnson. We've got, of course, brilliant epidemiologist, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University at their medical school, Dr. Deborah Holden. Dr. Fauci has said, we're never going to eradicate COVID. I said, wow. Has he been listening to Dr. Deb? How you doing this morning?
I keep telling these folks we got to speak the truth and let people know. Not to panic them, not to freak them out, but so that people know. I fundamentally believe people are big people. And if they know the truth, then they can plan from there.
Oh, I need you to speak up just a little bit, Doctor, but Pastor, Reverend, Doctor. No, it's Dr. Deborah Furl. I need you to speak up just a little bit so we can hear you.
All right, let me.
Oh, I got you.
How's that?
That's perfect.
How's that?
He was on Face the Nation on Sunday. And he said, I don't believe that COVID-19 will ever go away completely. He said, we're going to have to start living with COVID, quote. I believe that's the case because I don't think we're going to eradicate it. I don't even think we're going to eliminate it. I said, this is what Dr. Deborah Furl. So what does that mean?
That means we're now focusing on mitigation. We're trying to figure out how to lessen its impact and figure out what living with it will look like.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that means. So I've been saying that for a long time, and I was saying this very early on in the pandemic. If we don't get this thing under control, it's going to become endemic.
You said
and
that
I
here.
realized about 4 months in that I was like, this is now just with us. We didn't stop it in its tracks, and now it's just with us, and we're going to have to figure out how to live with it. Yeah, so I'm glad Dr. Fauci is finally speaking the truth. I really wish he would go ahead and retire and let somebody younger and bolder, get in that position. He really has, I think, soaked up his celebritydom.
Well, you know what? I think because of now, under his watch, we have a real big pharma has grown, and their links with government have become much, much, much stronger. And that's something I think he's done a lot of great work, but that I think has been a misstep, and it's not been good for us. And we need someone who's going to disaggregate, move big pharma, and separate government and big pharma. Our government is supposed to regulate them. They're not supposed to regulate us. And, just that's what I see. And you need someone who just takes that position. I mean, and I need someone like you who would, and we all need someone like Dr. Deb, who will talk to us, and you don't speak past our fear and our trepidation and our experiences. We need all of that.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I said, you know what? I forgotten to bring it up yesterday. I said, oh, because it happened on Sunday. But I said, this is what she's been saying. She's been saying to us, look, without a vaccine, we were able to bring the numbers down tremendously last year. But now we've got the vaccine. Almost 60% of Americans are vaccinated. And more of us have died this year than last year. So there's something that we're not doing. And, which is why we bring on Dr. Knighton, because you said, look, I'll tell you what we're not doing. We're not washing our hands. So, Dr. Holden.
Watch this. So in Michigan right now, right? We're in this surge. But remember, I've been saying also on the show, when we talking about the rates are going down nationally, I said, see, that's not happening everywhere. Michigan, the rates are consistently going up. And they were just creeping up. But I was like, our rates are not going down, they're consistently creeping up. And then what happens? It mushrooms. And now we have a full-blown surge. We are at the highest we've ever been throughout the whole pandemic, with the highest transmission rate, number of deaths, number of hospitalizations. Many hospitals are past capacity. And these are hospitals that already knew that they had to make preparations, so they didn't turn every usable space into COVID wards and all this other stuff. And even those spaces are now filled. So we are higher than we were at the height of the pandemic. At the height of the pandemic, we were on full lockdown. They were providing unemployment and enhanced unemployment for people. We were on a stay-at-home order. You weren't allowed to aggregate indoors and all that. We don't even have a mask mandate now. All of those restrictions are gone. All of it. You can congregate indoors. All of these events are back on. Sports are back on. Concerts are happening. All of this stuff, Santita. And our rates are the highest they've been the entire pandemic.
But Dr. Verholden, people think that once they've gotten the shots, they're in the clear. That's the way it was sold.
That's what they were told. That's because Dr. Fauci said it. The CDC said it. Oh, once you're vaccinated, you just take that mask off, live your best life. And none of that is true. None of that is true.
He just said that for Thanksgiving.
Well, that's not true.
Okay.
Yeah. And our governor literally said she's furious because she trusted the CDC, and if they had been more honest, she would have done things different.
She said that?
Honey, you now know. Do it different now. Yes.
Wow.
She just said that. I was on NPR last week, and I did an interview, and they said, what's happening in Michigan? And I sort of explained that we've been creeping along, and I said, consider Michigan a foreshadowing for what's happening in some other places, because I'm telling you a bunch of other places. And really, you can look at the state numbers, but you almost got to watch communities and some of the places, the major cities in some of the states to kind of understand what's happening, right? They're the real kind of tell for what's coming down the pike, right? And I said, I'm profoundly disappointed. Our rates have been creeping up. I think they said we're on 19 weeks of consecutive increase, 19 weeks. So don't act like you didn't know. It's profoundly disappointing. We have rates higher now than they've been throughout the entire pandemic, yet none of the safety mechanisms that we had in place, none of the things that we did to flatten the curve in the absence of a vaccine are in place. And the vaccine is just not, and my colleagues disagree with me on this, but it's not the answer. It's a part of an answer. But it's not the answer. It's not going to solve the problem now. We can't even make a vaccine fast enough and get it out to match the rate at which it looks like this thing is mutating and producing these much more sort of tricky variants that seem to be, eluding, in many ways the vaccine. And the answer has been just get another shot. Just get one more shot. And I know that extra shot is going to support people and help people, but it's not going to solve all the problems.
But they never
it's
do.
Just not. We just.
It's like it's like popping aspirin. I mean, If on the rare occasion when we had headaches when I was growing up, my mother would say, "Oh, no, you can't have aspirin. Go upstairs, take a nap, rest yourself." You know, I mean, because we are in a pop a pill culture. Take a shot. And, you know, the head of Merck last year said, don't, before they even got out of the race to develop a vaccine, he said, don't do this. This is not a magic bullet. It's going to take, as you said, the Swiss cheese approach. A lot of different layers, because I have several friends who've had COVID who have not, either their shots expired or they never got them. But they have been proactive about doing what you said, getting in the good foods, you know, getting the right, don't overdose on D3, everybody, you can do that. But getting the right array of vitamins and really taking care of your health, which is something Dr. Deb has been talking about. She's been talking about it. I have 30 seconds for you, Dr. Deb. What do you want us to know?
Now's the time for folks. We know what it takes. We know what to do. People know. Wear your mask when you're out. I do encourage people to get vaccinated. Keep practicing that good old hand hygiene. Do not be looking to YouTube and and Instagram and Facebook for your information on this virus. It's just not the place to be getting that. But we're okay. We are okay. In the same way we lived with the flu from 1918, we will learn how to live with COVID-19, and we will be okay.
Dr. Deborah Furholden. Dr. Furholden, I need you to stick with me for a hot second because, you know, something happened in Michigan yesterday that was just appalling. And you have called racism a health crisis, but our violence, not just gun violence, violence clearly is a health crisis. 8 people were shot, 3 are dead. We'll be back in just a minute talking about these trials today. Dante, Wright, Jussie Smollett, and Ahmad Arbery's prosecutor is about to go on trial. And you know, the one that told the McMichaels to wash the blood off and the gun residue. Oh, back in a minute. Dr. Deb.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs.
Okay, hold on one moment. Matt?
And reduce your carbon footprint.
Yep.
Because I heard nothing. That's why I didn't come on. And I don't miss those marks.
Yeah, we had a little issue here in the studio. It should be good now, though. Did you hear the outro music?
Not at all. Yeah, I mean, I just heard it just now, but always, if I don't come up at the appointed time, get in my ear and just say you're up.
Copy that. Sorry about that.
No. You're learning the show, Matt. Don't beat yourself up.
Thank you. I'm just trying to make it
you're
sound
learning
as
the
good
show.
for you.
Don't beat yourself up.
I have
Lift
a personal
yourself
printer
up,
from my
okay?
home office.
That's what I'm here for.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right.
I need the same setup for my home. This twice the cost.
Also possible because Staples Connect has the
Okay,
tools
Matt,
your
can you?
business
I know
needs
you're
to
trying to
get
do a lot of
work
things
done.
at once,
Now
honey.
get
Can you bring the
20%
radio
back in
down
a
a bit because
Staples
I want to
store
speak with
bonus when
Dr.
you buy any
Furholden?
2 Anchor toner cartridges. Explore what's new at Staples
Dr.
Connect.
Deb?
Working and Learning Store.
Yeah.
1211
Hey,
store only.
I'm
Visit
going to call you
staplesconnect.com
later on,
/store bonus
you
for
know,
details.
and just check in on you. And I'll leave it
Okay.
there.
Yeah, you saw my text.
Yep, I just saw it.
820. Here's the latest.
Yeah.
I just saw it. Just.
Yeah,
So.
and I went to.
Remember, we're on Facebook.
Central and from all
Yeah, wait here. Let me tell you.
there's a main configuration starting around Washington. Last time the layout changed, we saw quite an increase in travel times. Right now, 30 minutes.
Thank you,
from
Joyce. He
downtown.
is doing a great job.
From
Matt
Montrose,
Joyce said
12
you're doing a
minutes
great
to
job.
70
Send him some
Expressway,
love and great
Montrose,
energy today,
Ohio.
everybody.
Outbound, 20 minutes
Learning
to
on the
80
job is a very, very tough thing to do.
Looking at
Very, very tough thing. And you're doing it in public. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm trying over here.
And you're doing. And you know what? You're going to make mistakes. And that's when you learn. So please embrace the mistakes. That is how
I
you
just
get
sent you a
corrected.
text
Struggle with coronavirus.
Local businesses.
that I got right after I texted you.
What you say?
The Republicans
Oh wait, hold on. Right after I texted you,
committees to
I
punish
got a
who voted
I got a
for
text message.
infrastructure.
Okay.
Weekday afternoons at 2
They voted for
I sent it to
infrastructure,
the
and
wrong
the
number.
party
Hold up.
wants to punish them.
on WCPT 820.
It's a weird world we live in. It's a weird world indeed.
I have a personal printer for my home office.
I said, man, dang on it.
With Staples Connect, it's possible.
I need the same setup for my home as I have at the
Oh
office,
boy.
without twice the cost.
Also
What
possible.
happened to a
Because Staples Connect has the tools your business
friend of
needs to
mine?
Look at I sent you a screenshot. That came from my bride.
get any two
Okay.
and toner cartridges. Explore what's new at Staples Connect, the working and learning store. Ends 12/11, limit 2 in-store only.
Oh,
Visit
wow.
staplesconnect.com/store bonus for details.
This is a
Okay, we have about 1 minute, and I have Reverend McAfee and attorneys Griggs and Hoffler on the line.
Okay.
Well,
for his age,
You know, but
but
okay.
Clemens not let this stop him.
Okay.
I will happily share about it however it goes, but
No, I got you. I
this
just
will be a trip.
Let's-
This will be a real trip.
Battle of Chickamauga.
let's just
Almost captured by a Confederate colonel.
Pastor
Clemens was able to
McAfee.
save himself by grabbing a sawed-off musket just in time to shoot the colonel
Okay.
and escape.
C.K. Hoffler, Attorney Hoffler.
Drummer boy of Chickamauga, and was promoted as sergeant at
Okay, I
just
don't
the age
hear
of 12
them. Do
years
they
old,
hear me?
The youngest ever.
Attorney Griggs dropped for some reason.
Okay, Pastor McAfee and Attorney Hoffler.
President Ulysses S.
Good morning. I can hear you.
Good. And Dr. Verholden's on with us. We got there's so much going on. Goodness gracious. Pastor McAfee, we're going to speak
We've got
to
about 10 seconds.
Facts matter.
the shooting first, very quickly. Just hold on.
Change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, Tuesday, December 1st, 2021. Let's talk about Dante Wright. Don't forget about him. Killed up in Minnesota. And, you know, the taser that wasn't. Oh, I thought I was tasing him. No, you were shooting him. Oh, wow. And then, of course, we've got Ahmad Arbory. That case, his murder has been decided, but all of the people who were in on the cover-up, namely the prosecutor, well, she's about to go on trial. Got to talk about that. And then, of course, Jussie Smollett. Everybody is talking about that case here in Chicago and, quite frankly, all over the country and all over the world. So, got a lot to get going this morning. We have one of our dear friends and one of our favorites, Pastor Jerry McAfee, the senior pastor of the New Salem Missionary Baptist Church up in Minneapolis. One of my home churches across the country. I'm always so glad and honored when he can join us. And of course, it's Legal Q&A with CK. It's going to last for the whole show because we got a whole lot of cases to cover, a lot of ground to cover today. And we're going to have, of course, her dear friend and ours, our former prosecutor, attorney Gerald Griggs. But before we proceed, Attorney Hoffler and Pastor McAfee and Attorney Griggs, when we get him back up, I asked Dr. Verholden to stay on because she's in Michigan, and last night we got the terrible news about this deadly shooting in a high school in Oxford, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. A 15-year-old, and they're calling him a boy, interestingly enough. They're calling him a boy. His father purchased a gun last week. He took the gun and killed 3 people and shot 8 more. Wow. Dr. Verholden, you have called this, you said that racism is a public health crisis. And would you agree that violence is also?
Absolutely. Violence has been out of control. And the crazy thing is, during COVID, when people aren't moving around as much, when people are on stay-at-home orders, in most major cities, rates of violence have skyrocketed. We declared violence a public health crisis in the city of Flint about 4 months ago. We had about twice the number of shootings and homicides this year than we had 2 years ago. And that's in the midst of a pandemic. So absolutely, violence is a public health crisis. The problem also about how we treat violence is we often try to take problems that really are public health crises and treat them through the criminal justice system. And that's not treatment. It doesn't solve problems. And the data are really clear. When you over-police communities, you will get this very short-term decrease in crime followed by a big boon in crime. It doesn't work. It's not a long-term strategy. We need targeted approaches to target the people who are most at risk for being shooters, for being victims of violence, and those people need to be resourced and supported. We need to wrap support around the people who are most at risk for being a shooter and for being a victim of violence. Simply locking people up. And the crazy thing is, a lot of these crimes go unsolved. So it's not even about just, we can't even lock our way up out of it because a lot of times the police are not even able to solve a lot of these crimes.
That's a real problem here.
People are living with. Yes, they're just living with it and reacting and responding to the world that they live in. And it's really unfortunate because we do have strong evidence-based strategies for how to reduce gun violence. And it does not include throwing the book at people. When people are doing these things, they're not cognitively processing, if I do this, I'm at risk of being arrested or going to jail. That's not what's happening cognitively for people in that moment. So just, stiffening penalties and all that stuff, none of that stuff works. Yet we will keep doing the same old thing like Groundhog Day, same old thing, and the rates are continuing to go up.
Pastor McAfee,
violence is definitely a crisis.
Well, this is something that you've been working on the ground, curbing violence in Minneapolis. And before we can even talk about Dante Wright, I just said, it's ironic that I was bringing you on today to talk about that and what's happening in Minneapolis, St. Paul. But, what do you make of this 15-year-old child, right?
Well, when you leave people and you leave things undone and unattended to, all types of junk will happen. You listen to the music that our kids are listening to and the people that they glorify. If you watch the movies and the rap videos, we had a 5-year-old killed last week. His 15-year-old relative was trying to make a video, and somehow they got a gun and the gun was loaded. And that has been my issue with what's been happening with us, because we're dying so fast and so rapid with gunfire all over the country that we don't even talk about the fentanyl deaths. But the majority of the news as it pertains to Black people are police issues, which are an issue. I will not doubt that. But I continue to give the stats. We're closing in on 90-some homicides here, which is almost a record. So that would be about 160 or more people since George Floyd. Over 800-900 people shot just in Minneapolis, not St. Paul and surrounding suburbs. And so we've not dealt with these things properly. And as my sister said, our 21 Days of Peace initiative now been on the block since May. And this time we got evidence-based stats given by the police department showing what we're doing is effective because it's church-based and our people are taking care of our people, but we don't get no doubt nor support from anyone. Until we change the minds and hearts of our people back to where it need be, we're going to see this when the heroes and it is Soldier Boy and She-Rose is Megan Thee Stallion, all of this stuff that we got in our community, it's a recipe for disaster. And since I am a preacher, the book is clear. It talks about the coldness of love and what's going to be happening. And that's what we're experiencing right now. And if we don't take as much time in developing a strategy for that as we do on trying to defund the police and all this other stuff, we as a people will continue to lose. And those progressives who want to help us so much may get some police stuff done, But how many bodies of black men and black women will we lose in the process?
Everybody call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, we're praying for those families in Michigan today. And we're praying for the Dante Wright family. This case, initially, you had this, this explosion, if you will. Words fail me at this moment, of publicity around his killing. But now we're not hearing a lot about it. What's going on with this case, Pastor? Because of course he was was it Kim Potter, the police officer, veteran of more than 20 years. She said that, she taser, she was shooting him. And she said, oh, oops, I didn't know I had the gun. I thought I had a taser. Where are we with this case?
I think most, I've said in just one meeting, to be honest with you about it, I think people around here are numb because so much has been happening. It came out of, it wasn't long ago from George or Derek Chauvin. Now they're getting ready to even do the other 4 people on the, who was with Chauvin on the thing. You've had a very, very tense and terse election. I think people around here just kind of beat. And then the media, they're not playing it up as much as they used to. But they've had a few protests. One group, Second Chance, is trying to do some other things, and some other preachers and pastors have been leading some prayer things to try to get ahead of it, just in case to see what's going to happen. This case is quite different from Chauvin, without a doubt. But I'm sure that Attorney General Keith Ellison and will put their best foot forward. My gut feeling, she might wind up getting off. Then we'll see what the response is, because Chauvin was the first person convicted up here. Well, after the Somalian dude, but he was the first white dude convicted. And now you got a white woman, and she's saying, "Holy shit, I shot him." I don't know. We'll wait and see. But it's kind of a numb feeling, to be honest with you.
A CK Hoffler, you've got the floor. I think we have Attorney Griggs with us. CK, what did you have been case after case after case on Court TV, on MSNBC, on ABC. You have been predicting the outcomes of these cases. What do you think is going to happen here? Because you saw how the police surrounded her home. I mean, she was protected after she did this, and I'm sorry, even though other police officers with experience said, how did you mistake a taser? How did you think that you were holding a gun when you were holding a taser? Just help me. What do you see happening?
Well, Santita, I am not getting numb to all of this, but I am very, very weary, very tired of coverage, because I see so many similar themes. What I think we're going to see in this case, that there is going to be sympathy for this police officer, Kim Potter, because one, she's a white woman. Secondly, because we do have a spontaneous utterance and reaction right there at the scene where she recognized she made a mistake. But that's where the sympathy will begin, I believe, and end. But I do think that, and there are people who are speculating maybe she was overcharged. She's not overcharged, first and second degree manslaughter, which points more to recklessness. Recklessness. And I think she may be held accountable for that for a few reasons. One, she's a 26-year veteran. She's gone through training. There is a big difference, and experts, I believe, will testify. The positioning of the taser versus the positioning of a gun. There are a lot of things, nuances here, I believe, and just flat out evidence that would point to the fact that she was simply reckless. She was reckless at that moment. She was reckless at that time. And of course, when you shoot and kill a young man, yes, you do utter all kinds of things. Oh my God, I did. So her utterance at that moment was not surprising to me. It does not, to me, make her more sympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reality of that moment. I do think, though, it's going to be, you've got Keith Ellison, who personally is engaged in this trial. Keith Ellison added a charge. Originally, she was being charged with second-degree manslaughter, and he added first-degree. And I believe it's once they looked at the evidence, again, you've got video footage. It's going to be very, very powerful. We saw the video footage of this, and also the surrounding circumstances leading up to it. You know, being stopped for something that was so minor, and it's escalating. And there was a lot of law enforcement there on the scene, given the minor infraction. The fact that he was talking to his mother on the phone, all of those things leading up to his murder, his shooting, his killing, I think will be very persuasive for a jury. The community certainly has gone through the Derek Chauvin trial, has gone through really, as Reverend McCaffrey said, you know, an increase in violence in that community. So I think there are a lot of those dynamics, but I do believe they will try to hold her accountable to some degree, provided that they are able to with the charges. And I think the charges are there.
Well, you know, before we go to the callers, we have got a former prosecutor with us that you have brought along. We just love having Attorney Gerald Griggs. Attorney Griggs.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? And yes, I've been watching this case profusely. Again, this is one of those cases that is part of the racial reckoning that we're seeing in the country. And I think that Keith Ellison is suited to handle this particular case because of the nature of the charges and the fact that he was successful in getting a conviction in the Derek Chauvin case. I think this case is a little bit different in that, you know, she's charged with manslaughter, second-degree manslaughter, which is a little bit lower standard, you know, culpable negligence or unreasonable risk. So I think that regardless of the level of sympathy, and of course, you know, most jurisdictions have a jury charge that tells you you cannot have sympathy or compassion for the defendant. You just have to follow the law and the facts. And the facts in this case are clear. We got it on video that she is shooting him while, you know, yelling taser. It's very difficult to confuse a taser with a gun. So, you know, I know she's a 20-year veteran. She's trained. She was a field training officer. So she should know better. And I think that, you know, it's a very low bar, even though it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's still a low bar to show recklessness and culpable negligence. So I have to disagree a little bit with the pastor. I think that she's going to be convicted. I think in this new era of accountability that we continue to see around the country, you know, people are focused. You know, the reason why you haven't heard much about this case is because we've had, you know, major case after major case. But I think the eyes of the nation are shifting. They've shifted from Brunswick, and now they're shifting to Brooklyn Center. And I think you will see increased attention around this case and ultimately a conviction of Kim Potter.
Renee from Chicago, what's on your mind?
Good morning, and thanks for taking my call.
First
of all, when I you're welcome. When I saw the woman with that fake cry about that fake collar about taser, she looked like she knew exactly what she was doing. She seems guilty as can be. But I wanted to chime in on what the pastor was saying about the music. You know, when I grew up in the 60s, the music I listened to made you want to fall in love. It was uplifting. My girl, isn't she pretty? It made you say it loud that I'm black and I'm proud. It told me we're winners and keep on pushing. A change is going to come. They even sang about the ABCs. It's easy as 1, 2, 3, and ooh, child, things are going to get better. But then, because music is so powerful that it could move people so much, people who absolutely hated us, had disdain for us, wanted to re-enslave us or even kill us, they took over. And there was a meeting, according to a member from Bone Thugs and Harmony, where they said music executives and some people from this new industry that was forming, they came together with some of the rappers. This industry happens to be the private prison industry. And according to the member of Bone Thugs and Harmony, they told them that they needed their help in getting people to fill these private prisons they were building, and how could they help them? By rapping about killing each other and by rapping about using drugs. And I believe what he said, because I've been thinking this is what was happening the whole time. We were fighting for civil rights, listening to the music. That was our soundtrack. And then all of a sudden, 30, 40 years later, we're only rapping about how we're B's and H's and how we want to kill each other. And according to Dr. Boyce Watkins, 200 rappers have been killed just this year alone. And it's connected to the music, and our kids' heads are being filled with it. Their parents' heads were filled with it. Mm-hmm. And it's destroying us. It's destroying us.
Well, and ownership,
Renee. How full they are.
And ownership, because Berry Gordy would never release this kind of music. Al Bell would never release this kind of music. Ever, never, never, never. Sylvia Robinson, when she had Sugar Hill Records, Pastor McAfee, she didn't do this kind of music. That's where we got the Sugar Hill Gang. Sylvia and Mickey. That's my parents' era. No. They had music, like you mentioned, the great Curtis Mayfield, We're a Winner, Keep on Pushing, Sam Cooke. A change's got to come, and we've got to own our music, by the way, which is what many people, he was trying to own his music, as was Jackie Wilson, as was Otis Redding, and they all died mysteriously.
They all got killed.
Okay.
Michael Jackson, Prince.
Okay. And Michael Jackson did not do, it didn't release vulgar music that was diminishing to people. And it is very powerful. So, Pastor McAfee, you have been on the ground with your own program, and you have had tremendous success, not just blunting violence in the community. You have been turning it around and creating peace. What's the prescription? Write it up, Doctor. Come on, Reverend Doctor.
People of good faith need to get the presence and the power of the Lord out of the church building and get it back on the block. Most people want to be loved and cared about. The things that we're seeing and that the Lord has allowed us to do has just been off the charts. Since we talked last, we got a mobile office that we drive up on the block where we're able to help people get jobs right then and there. And it's just old-fashioned caring, like we used to care. And look, I'm talking about these are pastors out here, not they just sent their members, but out there able to counsel. We even got a counseling center at one of the churches, and just meeting the people right where they're at, finding out what the issue is and how can we help you. It's been just that simple. And we've had, as I know, the one area we had 100% turnaround. And it was one of the worst areas, the shootings, the drugs, the whole nine. And nobody's out there judging anybody. We ain't calling the police on anyone. Just building the relationships and showing them that we care. And right now, Pastor Patterson, them in St. Paul, they up in the Skyway, they doing soup, tea, coffee, the whole nine. Just old-fashioned caring about people like we used to. I'm an old country boy. And I know some of y'all from the city. And when we used to kill a hole, everybody in the neighborhood got some. I don't care if they helped do anything. But it was old-fashioned caring. And when we get that spirit again of serving and loving each other, we'll see a change. And that cannot be legislated by any law. That's got to be a matter of a heart for us to get ourselves back on that block. And those who can't handle that action, then you intercede and pray. But everybody can do something as we try to repair ourselves, because the church got the power if we would only use it. And I pray, my dear brother, that you are right, that the pendulum here again has changed. I hope you're right. But I've been here for a minute. I hope you're right. I'll leave it there.
Well, James, real quick, sweetie, what's on your mind? I'm so glad you called in this morning.
Was violence out of control when they lynched us in the public square, even after going to church and castrated us? Was violence out of control when they burned down our town, stole all our inventions, criminalized us, made us work on chain gang, making people money. Was violence out of control? Violence is not out of control. The system of racism and white supremacy is out of control. And it's never been under control. It's running amok. It has always ran amok. And it is a detriment to humanity on this planet. The process of understanding or perceiving a coming evil has put many people into a situation of the utmost dangers. And that's where good human beings find themselves today. We are in grave danger under the system of white supremacy. They mean humanity no good, and all of y'all know it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Well, I think that all forms of supremacy, white supremacy, chief among them, horrible. At some point, we're going to have to value life, James, Mr. James. We really are. From the sound of your voice, it seems like you're my elder, so I don't want to call you by your first name. But we are going to have to make a decision about where we go from here. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King asked this question more than 50 years ago. Chaos or community? It's our choice. We can choose, we can lose. Are you going to value life, or are you going to decimate life? The bombs that we have dropped all over the world, that we continue to drop all over the world, they're exploding here. Those parents who were crying in Michigan last night, parents in Afghanistan have been crying too. Parents all over the world have been crying too. So we need to step back and take a look at ourselves and make a decision about which way we go from here. Chaos or community? Are we going to go God's way, or are we going to go our way? That's what I think. Pastor Jerry McAfee, senior pastor of the New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, the Jackson's home church up in Minneapolis. That's our guy up there. We love him so much. And we thank him, even though when I send my father up there and I ask him not to give him fried chicken, he does it every time. I still love you. Pastor McAfee. Just go on, Pastor. I love you. Let's talk about the Ahmad Arbory prosecutor's trial. Yeah, the one who tried to block the trial, who tried to block the investigation, who tried to cover up the murder of Ahmad Arbory and Jussie Smollett. Got a lot to talk about on the Santita Jackson Show. 773-763-9278. Back in a minute.
Mild to moderate. It works in below the skin surface and can be used on almost everybody, like on the dimples of a dick.
Oh, well, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Matt, can you bring that down just a bit, sweetie?
Well, you both. Or the shoulders of a chef.
I was saying that I'm glad that we tackled that gentleman because he answered his own question. White supremacy been around that long and it ain't nothing changed, and it's still up to us to change in the midst of it.
Absolutely. Because I'm not going to support any supremacy at all. I'm not. Because there's some of us who are there's some black folks who do things that are wrong. And mind you, the white supremacist structure is one that it's crumbling as we speak. But what is it going to be replaced with? I mean, are you going to go another way? I mean, that's what I want to know.
If you look at what they're trying to do up here, what they're going to replace it with is a coalition between the far left progressives and the far left black folk who I'm just going to call it like I see it, who are more prone to LGBTQ than they're anything else, who have displayed a disdain for the black church and black men in particular. So it's interesting around here.
Well, we're going to have a talk about all of that, about all of that, because, I think, because the black church, I think, unfairly has been tagged with the label of being homophobic. Although there's been room in our churches for everybody, in the black church in particular. Now, what black people ask you not to do is put your personal business on display. And look, I have not seen my parents kiss, and they've been married almost 60 years. It will be 59 years, December 31st. Because public displays of affection, at least from that generation, that's just not what you do. you know.
And especially in church.
No, you give a nice peck on you, a nice little kiss when after the wedding ceremony is over, and then you just keep it on going. Whew, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I would love to have you come on and talk about that one day. Really, like soon.
Just let me know. I'm certainly willing.
You know, because I get you up early. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right, take care now.
Send you much love, Pastor McAfee. Give Dad a call when you can.
I will.
Please do.
Testing requirements for travelers.
Bye-bye.
Minnesota Democrat Ilhan Omar is imploring House Republican leaders to do more
Dr.
to
Dad?
tamp down on anti-Muslim hatred. She played a voicemail
She there?
received and cleaned up the language of what was said to
Attorney
her.
Hoffler? Attorney Griggs?
You are effing traitor.
I'm here.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So I have my beautiful people with me today. So glad you're here.
Robert recently likened Omar to a
Ooh, there's so
bomb-carrying
much going
terrorist.
on.
This is AP News.
CK.
The headliner of the Astro World Music Festival in Houston made.
Dr. Verholden dropped, but we do have Mr. Perwell's on the line as well.
Okay, great. No. She should be on at 7:30.
Offered by Travis Scott to pay for the funerals of their loved ones.
Copy that.
Okay, because I remember I do the 1 minute read
Who formally made the offer
coming right out of
soon after the tragedy.
okay.
The lawyer for the family of the youngest victim says, well, he believes
Yep, copy that.
Okay, great.
their responsibility for
Now
what
tell her she can
happened.
call back and comment on these cases because you know Chappelle's got opinions.
Scott's offer is just a publicity stunt.
Will do.
I'm Oscar Wells.
Ask her if she wants to make a comment about that.
New leads on possible sources of live ammunition involved in that.
Do you want me to put her through right now? We still got a couple seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Search the premises of an Albuquerque-based
Okay, she should be up.
ammunition.
Attorney,
supply.
Chappelle Wells.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Now, I'm bringing you on to do your bit for a minute at the bottom of the hour, but we're about to talk about these cases. We're about to talk about Ahmad Arbory, at least the prosecutor's case. Do you want to call back and make a comment on that? Or do you want to wait till the Jussie Smollett case?
Either or is fine.
Okay.
You know, I can talk about either one.
I know you want to, but you can say hello to Attorney Griggs and to Attorney Hoffler.
Good morning, Attorney Griggs. Good morning, Attorney Hoffler. And CK, you've been so great. I've been watching you on Stephanie Rule and everybody. I was like, oh, look at my CK. I feel like that's
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I know that you are feeding communities around the country. And so thank you for what you do and for all your commentary and everything.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Now, Attorney Griggs, if you want some great food, ooh.
I have to definitely try it.
Oh. I promise you. Woo. I had a pork chop yesterday. She made me some pork chops last week, you all. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Oh, honey, with gravy. Oh.
Even with type 2 diabetes,
All I had to do was make my rice.
may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is.
1 minute.
Call Term Provider and speak
I was in
with
heaven.
Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like
Okay,
you.
so remember, you're going to
He's
hear
on
me
meds,
pause
too.
after the headlines, and I'm going to need you to pull that 1 minute piece, okay?
So much that we're.
I'll just say I'm going to stop after the headlines. I'm going to say, you know what? I've got a new sponsor, or I'm going to say, do you want to own a home? Okay.
Okay, and there's an audio clip for it.
Well, I'm going to need you to pull the clip that we have today. I'm going to need you to isolate the clip, pull it,
and send it to
me.
Right. Copy that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. We've got 15 seconds.
Fantastic.
Over to WCPT820.com
Thank you.
or the TuneIn.
Thank you.
And stream The Stephanie Miller Show. Weekdays 8 to 11 a.m. on Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world. we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Tuesday, December 1st, 2021. 24 days before Christmas. We're in the midst of the Hanukkah season for our Jewish brothers and sisters, sending them much love. It's a holy season as well for our Muslim brothers and sisters, sending them and everyone much, much, much love and much respect in this holy, holy, holy high season. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, our brothers and sisters to the north. We have got a lot to talk about today, the Ahmad Arbory prosecutor's case. That's right. It was found that these three gentlemen, the McMichaels and Mr. Bryan, did murder Ahmad Arbory. But there is much more to this case. The cover-up will stun you. So we're going to talk about that very shortly with attorney C.K. Hoffel, legal Q&A with C.K., and attorney Griggs, former prosecutor. Gerald Griggs, cannot wait to hear your take on this, because I want to know what you feel as a prosecutor, about what this prosecutor did. And then we'll be speaking with attorney Fania Davis. Who is she? She's a sister of Angela Davis. She is also a nationally renowned civil rights lawyer. And she has been very involved in helping to guide Jussie Smollett and his family through this trial. Cannot wait to talk with her. And I think you will be surprised at what's happening in that courtroom. That's not really being reported. And we're going to talk about that here on the Santita Jackson Show. Let's get to some of these headlines so we can get on with the show. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 52 degrees will be the high. It will be cloudy. In Chicago, a high of 49 degrees. It will be cloudy. The Dow closed down, get this, 652 points yesterday, everybody. The NASDAQ closed down 245 points. And the S&P 500 closed down 88 points in the NBA tonight. The Timberwolves will be facing off against the Washington Wizards in Washington. And last night, the Wild were triumphant over the Coyotes. The Wild 5 and the Coyotes 2, everybody. There was a deadly shooting at an Oxford, Michigan high school yesterday. 3 students, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 17-year-old were killed. 8 others, including a teacher, were shot, and they are in critical condition, sending them prayers. 15-year-old sophomore has been arrested. He was the shooter. We don't know the motive, but we do know that his father purchased the gun last week. A 9mm pistol. It's a big day for abortion at the Supreme Court, everybody. Justices will hear arguments about whether a 15-week ban in Mississippi, which has been on hold since 2018, is constitutional. What's at stake? Well, the court could decide to overturn Roe v. Wade. We will be on the lookout. FDA advisors have recommended the first pill to treat COVID-19. Taken for 5 days, it could cut the risk of hospitalization and death by 30% for people with a high risk of illness. Another judge blocked the vaccine mandate for healthcare workers, everybody. A key part of President Biden's vaccine rules will now be on hold all across the country after ruling on Monday first blocked it in 10 states. It applied to about 1.7 million workers who work at facilities that get Medicare and Medicaid funding, everybody. So let us keep our eyes open. We will see. This is that case. Those cases might go to the Supreme Court as well. Everybody, yesterday we started something about homeownership. Do you want to own a home? Do you own a home? Do you need it refinanced? Do you have good credit? Do you have poor credit? Do you need to establish credit? Well, David Hochberg and his team are the answer for you, everybody. He's out of Illinois, but his team can originate loans in over 30 states, including Minnesota. And after talking with him and seeing his passion to want to help Black and brown communities in particular learn about the importance of establishing and building credit and how they can get their homes refinanced at lower rates, I said, you know what? I want to work with you. Most banks and mortgage brokers will not invest in Black and brown communities, but not David Hochberg and his team. Indeed, this can help to stop the hemorrhaging of Black wealth and brown wealth. It can help to stop the hemorrhaging of Chicago. We've lost more than 300,000 Black persons, families, over the past few decades, everybody. Team Hochberg wants to help you, our communities and organizations, learn about credit, establishing it, cleaning it up, refinancing your home, getting financing for your home, and bringing down these ridiculously high rates that absolutely choke us in our communities. If you'd like more information about David Hochberg and his team and how they can help you, call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-56-DAVID, 855-563-2843, or 56david.com, and let's get some home ownership going. Everybody, what is going on with the Ahmad Arbory case? What is going on? Oh, yes, you said, well, okay, we got a judgment last week. Oh, but there are federal charges. There's a lot going on. Of course, it's Legal Q&A with CK, attorney CK Hoffler. You brought on one of your incredible colleagues, former prosecutor, attorney Gerald Griggs, to talk about, we're going to be talking about, of course, at the bottom of the hour, Jussie Smollett and his case, but let us look at what's happening with Ahmaud Arbery's, with Jackie Johnson's case. Let's get this straight. Mm-hmm. The prosecutor, she is in trouble. She is facing prison time. And people are saying that she absolutely deserves to go to prison for what she did. Attorney Darrell Jones last week. Well, what did he tell us?
Well, Santita, without a question, Jackie Johnson is her name. She's a district attorney in Glenn County at the time of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. And what is extraordinary about this, and many didn't hear this, it certainly didn't come out in the McMichaels and Bryan trials, but at the scene of the shooting, at the scene of the murder, Greg McMichael called the district attorney, Jackie Johnson, because he had a relationship with her. He was former law enforcement. He had been an investigator in her office. He called her from the scene and said, I'm paraphrasing, we have a little situation here. My son is shot and killed somebody. And whether he said a black boy or something, that is what we'll just see what the evidence reflects there. And what should we do? And this is what she told him to do. Go home, get cleaned up. And so let me pause about that, why that is significant. When you are at the scene of a shooting, everything, the shooters, the people involved, they are all part of a crime scene that must be investigated right there. Evidence, blood. Greg McMichael had blood on his hands. I've seen video footage of him talking there to an officer with blood on his hands. I saw in the background Ahmaud Arbery's body covered. This jury in their trial didn't see this footage. She tells them, go home and get cleaned off. That's one. That's the first obstruction among many. She then instructs two police officers who are at the scene to stand down and not arrest Travis McMichael. Travis McMichael, as we know, shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery. We know his father was complicit. We know William Roddy Bryan was complicit. But she, the district attorney sitting there in that county, tells them, to the police officers, to stand down. When that information becomes, or information relative to the shooting, becomes public because of the video that was leaked. And before that, when Mr. Arbery called the district attorney to find out what happened to his child, she lied to him. That's problem number 15. She lied to him about what happened to Ahmaud Arbery and what he was doing and all of that and where he was murdered. Then, when there was heat on her because of the video, she then recused herself after a lot of pressure primarily mounted by Ahmaud Arbery's father and his mother. She referred the case to a district attorney in the neighboring county who also had a conflict of interest because a family member had worked in her office, interfaced with Greg McMichael. These were all conflicts of interest. Why? Because Greg McMichael was potentially a suspect. There was no investigation there at the scene, no real thorough police investigation at the scene. That was another conflict. When she reached out to the Attorney General of Georgia, she failed to disclose many of these conflicts and information that she had. So she completely obstructed the case, obstructed the evidence, and acted in a way that is not only unethical but illegal, and now she is facing criminal charges. So that is what Jackie Johnson is facing, and she's going to have a trial in February. The reason why this is really so important is because we saw a delay in the indictments and the prosecution of Greg McMichael, Travis McMichael, and William Rody Bryant, a delay of almost 3 months. And we saw that Ahmad Arbery's family, his father in particular, led by his father and his mother and the faith community and activists, were pushing and pushing and were not going to accept this outcome. And in fact, Jackie Johnson was on the ballot to be reelected as district attorney. It was Ahmad Arbery's family that was responsible for finding another candidate, a write-in candidate, because it was too late to put someone on the ballot, who defeated Jackie Johnson because of her mishandling of this case. And there's also some evidence that may not be relevant to her case, but it might come out, that she has had similar instances of mishandling of other cases involving Black and brown people in her county. So that's what's happening with Jackie Johnson. Her case is scheduled, I believe, jury selection is going to be the first week of February of 2022. So that's Jackie Johnson. And a lot of people don't realize the magnitude of the alleged corruption in that case. That is not permissible. It's wrong. It's improper. It's illegal. And it could be criminal. And that's what her case is about. But there's a part two. And so there's a part two to this whole McMichael Bryant murder of Ahmaud Arbery. And that is the hate crime case that's coming up in 2022. The Justice Department also filed charges, hate crime charges. Now, hate crime, after the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, Georgia passed its version of a hate crime bill. Georgia also appealed the 1863 law, that citizen's arrest, if you will, law that was used to capture slaves. That was a law that McMichaels and Bryant used. One of their defenses was that law. They were doing a citizen's arrest. Well, we know it was bogus and the jury didn't buy that. But the hate crime, the federal hate crime indictment and the lawsuit is going to be prosecuted by the Justice Department. And we know the head of the Civil Rights Division is Kristen Clark, a formidable, extraordinary civil rights lawyer. And we feel that Mayor Garland is taking this case seriously the way he should take this case. It must be prosecuted. People must understand the difference between the underlying murder of Ahmaud Arbery and hate crimes. That's another level of prosecution that we've got to see in this country, where people commit crimes motivated by bias and hate, and in this case, color. Listen to the 911 tape. A Black man is running. And there's a whole nother set of evidence that was not exposed in the trial that we just saw that will be, I believe, used in the hate crimes trial. So the murder of Ahmaud Arbery has many tentacles, and we have 2 more trials that are coming up that we know of at this point.
Attorney Gerald Griggs, this is in your wheelhouse. She's a former prosecutor. What is your take on all of this? And I mean, have the Arbory can they see justice without her going to jail?
Well, they can't see justice without her going to jail and George Barnhill being held accountable. And as CK so eloquently put the case out there, this is a cover-up. And it was a cover-up for 74 days until the video was leaked. And I do need to thank a few people for exposing the cover-up. Wanda Cooper-Jones and Marcus Arbory, and, of course, the Glenn County NAACP, because many in the nation did not know about this case until the tape surfaced. But Ahmaud Arbery was killed February the 23rd, 2020, and Jackie Johnson had an integral role in the cover-up, which is why she's charged with violation of oath of office. She's charged with obstruction. Not only did she have a conversation with Gregory McMichael and told the police officer to stand down, but she then recused herself and sent the case over to George Barnhill, who had a relationship also with the McMichaels, and a former employee that was in Jackie Johnson's office that had a relationship with the McMichaels. But George Barnhill penned the now infamous letter which gave the McMichaels their defense. If anybody watched the trial, the McMichaels never mentioned citizen's arrest nor self-defense until after George Barnhill penned the letter saying that this was a citizen's arrest and that they were using self-defense. All on the video footage at the scene, you don't see them ever mentioning they were trying to arrest or do anything to Ahmad Arbery except for shoot him. So these are the reasons why not only does Jackie Johnson need to be held accountable, but George Barnhill. And I think that we're in the process of that with her trial that's coming up. But the nation needs to understand that what happened down in Southeast Georgia has happened in numerous cases involving Jackie Johnson, whether it's Carolyn Small, Kelsey Rayner, or just a few that we can name. And so what needs to happen now is that for the continued justice for Ahmad, everyone that had a hand in this cover-up, the 74 days that it took for the nation to demand justice, for activists to demand justice, for families to demand justice, for organizations to demand justice. And I would be remiss in my duties as a former prosecutor, as a current civil rights attorney, as a civil rights activist, not to thank you personally and your father for coming down to Brunswick and adding that next layer of pressure through the pastors, of course, Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jamal Bryant, but particularly Reverend Jesse Jackson, who helped to expose even more the level of vitriol for African Americans that was present during that trial. I agree with TK that there are elements that were not mentioned in the criminal trial, the state criminal trial, that will be mentioned, namely the vanity plate with the Confederate flag. And one fact that many people still don't know, after Ahmad was killed, Travis McMichael stood over his body and said, "I got that fucking nigga." We need to fully understand that there was truly a lynch mob that killed an unarmed jogger, and everyone that had anything to do with it needs to be held accountable.
Call me at 773-763-9278. I've had a pastor curse on my show today, and I've had a former prosecutor, but guess what? Everything has context, everybody. as I listen to you and as I listen to Pastor McAfee, that's not profanity. The acts are profane, everybody. The acts are profane. To stand over this man you've just shot and say that I've shot an effing N-word, really? Come on now. Come on now. To have the defense lawyer talk about his hygiene? Are you serious? To have the other defense lawyer say, you know what? We don't need the black pastors. Pastors. Would she say that to the Pope? Of course not. Would she say that to Franklin Graham? Of course not. 773-763-9278. Yes, before I go to the callers, absolutely.
And so not black, but naming your dad, Reverend Jesse Jackson, personally, when he hadn't even been in the courtroom.
Yeah, well, and let me establish, I wasn't there in spirit, but we did support him going, but I think it was also, Reverend has been ubiquitous. Let's put it where it is. Reverend's ministry is about 60 years old. And in the prime of his physical powers, because he is now laboring with not mentally, but physically with Parkinson's. And you can see that his speech is more of a struggle, that walking is more of a struggle, but he's willing to give his last fullest measure of devotion. And he's going to do that until he can do it no more, until the Lord calls him home. And I appreciate that. So I think that Reverend Sharpton had been in the courtroom, but I think they just called Reverend's name because Reverend's been everywhere all the time.
Absolutely. And that shows the power of Reverend Jackson. The mere notion that he might be somewhere coming to the courtroom was enough. But even before that, they tried to silence activists, Transformative Justice Coalition, and other activists outside. They try to prevent them from doing what the Constitution protects us and allows us to do, which is to protest peacefully on public property outside the courthouse. They tried to prevent. Attorney Goff tried to actually file a motion to prevent them from protesting. The judge correctly ruled that that would be a violation of the First Amendment right. So the obstructionist behavior, if you will, of the defense lawyers, that's something that people need to talk about and think about. But at the end of the day, the jury saw it, they got it, and they ruled loudly and clearly and convicted all three men, and all three of them are facing life sentences and have another trial coming up for hate crimes.
Well, you know, I've got 1 minute, Attorney Griggs, and it belongs to you.
Okay. And so I think that this underscores the ability of the entire community to mobilize, especially down in Southeast Georgia, the professionals, the activists, the family. And so I think it shows that we have turned the corner. And so I'm just proud to know that that family is in the process of getting justice, and it's because of the work of so many activists and so many civilians and individuals that thought it not robbery to go down to Brunswick and make sure that we still run with them on.
Well, you know what? I want you to stay here because we're going to have attorney Fania Davis, a nationally renowned civil rights attorney. She comes from a great tradition. She is Dr. Angela Davis's sister. And indeed, she's from a family of academics. They are one of the most distinguished Black families in the history of our country. And we are going to talk with her about the Jussie Smollett case. Why are they pushing this trial to 8 o'clock at night? Why has the judge pushed cameras out of the courtroom? You don't even know what's really going on. And I'm telling you from reports, the judge's behavior is questionable, to put it charitably. So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I mean, have you asked who investigated the Smollett case? Well, I mean, I would like to speak to the holes in the case because let's go back to the fact that I'd like to bring Attorney Hoffler and Attorney Griggs in at the appropriate time. He did not want to go public with this. He didn't want to call the police first. I think, can we start there?
He's not someone who wants to grab national media attention by any means.
Well, so he was pushed, encouraged to report this case, but it seems that the Shelley Stanley has done some wonderful reporting on this case. I saw her work first and I have to fully disclose, I told Jussie Smollett about her work. He said, I'd heard about it. I said, no. I had her on my show. Just so that you know. Oh, no. I had her on my show several times. I said, because I don't think that we're getting the right story here. There's something about this that's really, really off, and it's inconsistent with who I know him and his family to be. It's just something that's just not adding up here. So, just tell us about some of the inconsistencies and what you're seeing in the courtroom.
First of all, the star witnesses, who are the Osundairo brothers, Nigerian-American brothers, in the case have no credibility. Without these brothers, the Chicago Police Department, the prosecution would have no case whatsoever. So let's just talk about them a bit. They are actually the criminals here, especially the older brother, Osundairo. He has a police record, and it involves assault, like the assault that Jussie suffered in this case. When the police were investigating the case and searched the Osundairo brothers' apartment, they found high-power guns and high-power artillery and rounds of ammunition and shotgun and rifles and drugs like cocaine and heroin in the homes of these brothers. They have a track record, therefore, of illegal behavior. Their story has changed a few times. The prosecution first said the motive for Jussie staging his own hate attack was that he had more motive. I'm hearing some distortion. Can you hear me, Santita? Hello? Can you hear me? I'm hearing some distortion.
Back now, thank goodness. Please.
Okay, I don't know where we end.
Oh, you never stop. So you just keep on going, Attorney Davis. Matt, we can come back up. Matt, come back up, honey. Hey. Well, everybody, just hold on, because we're coming right back up as soon as we can work it out with the station. I don't know what happened here, but everything went down. Crazy.
Hello?
I'm having trouble coming up to you play music in my ear.
Yeah,
dropped you for some reason. So I just tried calling back on the studio phone and went straight to voicemail. I'll try again.
No, just do it right now. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, bring me back up. Okay.
A detective who was testifying noted that a detective who was investigating the case back in 2019 made a homophobic remark about Dusty. And Nene Boucher, Dusty's attorney, objected vigorously and said he would have to file a motion because when the homophobic remark was testified to, the judge said something like, "So what? That's okay. You can say that." Someone, he said that so essentially the judge was seconding and approving of and consenting of this homophobic remark made by one of the police investigators during interrogation. So that's very disturbing.
Well, have you all looked into the back?
That we have a 10 white person on this jury in a city that is 30% black, 30% white, 30% Latina. We have a jury that's like 80% white. So we have concerns, but we are confident that all of the holes and inconsistencies and the lack of credibility of both the police department and the Olsen-Beiler brothers, those are the main witnesses for the prosecution, and their credibility is shot. We know the history of the police department. We know that right around the time that Jussie was framed up for faking his own hate attack, Officer Van Dyke had just been convicted of killing Laquan and covering up that killing. We know that Chicago has had a reputation as the false confession capital of the world. And we believe that confession by the Olsen-Beiler brothers was coerced by police in this case. The $1.5 billion in funds, public funds that have been paid out to settle cases against the CPD. We don't know men who have been tortured. So the CPD is a poor witness and a witness that lacks credibility. All of the detectives that are coming forward, and then the Osandaro brothers are also, as I said earlier, and I hope your listeners heard that. I know there was a lot of disturbance. But the Osandaro brothers are also lacking credibility based on their records, their criminal records, and based on the fact that they probably entered into a deal with CPD. If they testified against Jussie, then the CPD would not charge them with having.
Well, hold on, Attorney Davis, because I want to drill down on the Osandaro brothers, because they were claiming that they were not involved in this until you have 48 hours, right? And in the 47th hour, they relented and said, we did it. And the charges against them, the proposed charges, were dropped. Do I have that right?
You have that right. Police detained them, giving them 48 hours to confess or implicate Jussie, and they resisted. They would not relent. They would not implicate Jussie until the 47th hour, because 48 hours is the maximum that police can hold suspects without a charge. After 47 hours of detention and high-pressure interrogation, the brothers relented and gave the police the information that they wanted. And unsurprisingly, after cooperating and incriminating Jussie, they were released without charges. So there's so many reasons why their testimony is shot through and through with holes and inconsistencies, and it's not credible.
Attorney C. Oh no. Yes, Attorney Davis, please.
Yeah. I first of all, I want to thank
Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Okay.
And I want to thank Attorney Davis for all of her insights and observations and comments on this case, because, we have to have a leveling of the playing field and justice for everybody. I feel like we have a combination of the McMichael Bryant trial and the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. The judicial temperament sounds like a similar judicial temperament as in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. A judge that is making rulings and appears to be, again, the appearance, I'm not there in the courtroom, to be somewhat biased, allowing certain things to happen. We have the same dynamic as we had in Glenn County, where they're trying to keep Black pastors, keep activists away, and claiming that they obstructed. And in this case, and Santita, I said it on your show many times, the judge in Glenn County ruled appropriately when it came to activists, Reverend Jackson, Black pastors, all of that. His rulings were appropriate, but I said, I don't know if the judge in Kenosha would have ruled the same way. Some judges may have said, yeah, we need to, tell them that they can't protest or tell them that they can't be in the courtroom. And that's what we are seeing here in Jussie Smollett's case. So we have got to watch these cases very closely and how justice is being administered in different places, and the grassroots civil rights, human rights, activist community must continue to be active, because it does make a difference. In addition to the other things we have to do, we have to continue to push for justice. We have to continue to shed light, Santita, as you're doing with your show, on inequity, on fairness, things that are happening that don't add up. Because if we don't continue to push, we're going to see a lot of miscarriage of justice potentially. And Jussie Smollett, like every other defendant that's being accused, should be allowed to have his day in court and defend. And when there are questions of credibility of witnesses, his team should be allowed to fully cross-examine those witnesses and impeach them. And I'm not certain how the jury composition was the way it was, but since we just saw it happening in Glenn County, Georgia, and one of the, in the deep South, here we have in the far north a very, very similar dynamic, which is in some respects inexplicable, but it doesn't mean necessarily, although I have my doubts, that we can't get justice. And that's what we have to look at, is justice.
Attorney Davis, we have had a crazy day, technically, but I've got to have you come back on the show. And certainly I want to have other people come back and explain what is happening in this case. It is because, you know, if it can happen to someone who has all of this spotlight, when you look at these cases, the Kyle Rittenhouse case, when you look at these people attempting to bury Ahmad Arbery, these are high-profile cases. And by sheer dint of the will of Ahmad Arbery's mother and father and mother, that man is a trucker who drove all night, who drove 5-6 hours to get back to find out what happened to his baby. He was in Florida and drove back to Georgia. I mean, and had it not been for that, this Ahmad Arbery, we would not know his name. We wouldn't. I mean, this happens to me in courtrooms all the time. This level of corruption, and because it does appear to be corrupt. There is something amiss. I've never heard of a trial being pushed to 8 o'clock just about every night. No cameras in the courtroom, so no one can know what's going on. Attorney Davis, I've got 2 minutes. They belong to you, but you've got to come back.
Thank you for the remarks earlier, beautifully tying up other trials, but high-profile trials that happen in the country. And I want to pull out a remark that was made about calling out activists, calling out the community to protest, to come to the court, to protest outside the courtroom. There's going to be a protest on Thursday, and we're calling on all people who care about justice to show. And one of the really quick last things I want to say is that the CPG suppressed evidence that supported Jesse's account. That's what happened to him. And that's all going to come out of trial. And that's why I'm confident. I'm confident because of the activists who are increasingly beginning to support Jesse. I'm confident because of the incredible legal team on Nini Luce. And I'm confident because, you know, I believe that the truth will come out in this trial and the jurors will do the right thing.
Everybody pay attention to this case. I've got literally 1 minute. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, will you be analyzing any of these cases on Court TV, ABC, MSNBC? You've been all over the media. Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you must show up. And you must show up and observe what's happening in the courtroom. You need to know that this, I've never heard of anything like this. You're pushing this court hearing to 8 o'clock at night. There are no cameras. You don't know how the judge is behaving. You don't know what the prosecutors, what the defense, you don't know anything. What you know is what the media, the corporate media are telling you. And they told you from jump, just about, that he was guilty. That ought to make you suspicious right now. And you need, because if they can bury him, what can they do to you? What can they do to me? Just put it right there. Attorney Fania Davis, I got to have you come back. And we're going to have to do something a little special. I do something sometimes in the evening, CK. Let's talk about it. I think we need to do that in the next day or so. I'm going to reach out to you, Attorney Davis, shortly, because we can do something special and just push it out there, because I want us to lay out what happened in this case. And I'm going to reach out to Ms. Stanley as well. Okay. So I love you, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Oh, God bless you.